But
Awesome.
thanks everyone for joining us today. And we will be talking about how to hire high quality marketer who would bring in immediate growth. We do have a lot of clients who we have been helping over the last 1 year, 1+ years, or hire high quality talents. Very often, some of our core needs, people come in and ask for virtual assistant, executive assistants, or like assistants who would help the founder, the CEO, do a bit more, improve productivity, like run some operations. But often they would also speak to us about hiring high quality marketers. And this is also like one of the niches, which is not as easy as basic maybe. So we'll be talking more about how to like hire one who brings in hopefully immediate growth.
Yeah.
A couple more minutes, 1 more minute, and then we'll start. And again, thank you for joining this session. Abbas is with me. Abbas is the CEO at Remote Leverage, and I'm Pia Shalom. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer. And together we have been doing good growth for Remote Leverage as a business over the last few months, and we hope to experience some of our
Hey, good growth
experiences
is an understatement. We've grown about 35% month over month. It's been incredible.
month over month, right? And um, we were kind of a challenger brand in the recruitment space, but very soon, hopefully, we could kind of call ourselves the largest company in this space. Yeah.
All right, cool. I think we should get started. We'll record this anyways. Let's see, record. There we go. It's getting going. All right, guys, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Abbas. We've got Piyash, our Chief Marketing Officer here as well. And today, what are we talking about, Piyash? What's the topic?
The topic is how to hire a marketer. Okay, one
Our high
marketer who
marketing.
would immediate growth
Awesome.
for any
You know,
company.
it's really interesting because if you think about why businesses don't grow as fast as they want to grow, in a lot of cases, it's because they don't have enough leads. They don't have enough business. Because if they had an unlimited amount of business, then growth becomes extremely easy because all you have to worry about is, well, I mean, not extremely easy, but much easier because you have to then worry about operations and fulfillment. And that is a much easier problem to have. If you have so much business that you just have to fix operations to grow the company, then you can have as much growth as you can accommodate. The bigger problem that I see happening in a lot of companies is that they fix operations, but they don't really focus as much on lead gen. They don't fix marketing. And so what ends up happening is that they add extra payroll and but they get stuck. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is how to hire the right marketer so you can have as much business as you can accommodate essentially. And just to give you guys some perspective, this month we're on track. We'll finish, I'm looking at our dashboard. We'll finish the month at about 1.625 million. So 1,600 and 25,000. And about a year ago, exactly a year ago, so right now we're in March, exactly a year ago, we had 215,000. So we went from 215,000 last year to 1.6 million this month, this year, in about 12-month span, right? And so I would say one of the biggest reasons is because we've been able to hire a really good marketing team, that's been able to drive that growth. And so we're going to talk about that as well. But first, we're going to kick it off by talking about how to pick roles that can drive immediate growth. I'll let Piyash get started on that and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Abbas. So, great points, and definitely we'll be discussing about some of the things you mentioned. For example, very quick growth for Remote Leverage in the last 12 months. The first talking point is how to pick roles that actually drive immediate growth. Right? Marketing is a kind of domain. It is kind of broad in people's minds, and marketing is also kind of I would say often unique to people's business. People's business can differ, the industries can differ, and you probably do not need the same marketer like someone else who's successful in a different area, right? However, one of the roles is kind of ubiquitous. Okay, the first role I would identify it's paid ads. Call it a paid ads manager or a specialist or an expert. Okay, paid ads could be one area where I think truly a business can make itself. A business starts happening when paid ads is working properly, or in other words, if paid ads is working, if a business is sustainably acquiring leads or clients or business below a target cost per acquisition cost, they are in business, right? So paid ads is definitely one of the roles that I want to focus on. Other roles would be um, other roles would be life cycle, or like I would actually focus on a few different roles, right? A life cycle marketer or an email marketer could be one of the roles that achieve immediate growth for you, especially if you already have a lot of leads or a list to work on. Okay. Another role that I think is very useful nowadays, an automation expert, a marketer who can do very high quality CRM integration for any CRM. Like nowadays, every company has a CRM. Okay, but very often they are not properly configured, and events are not properly being triggered, and data is not properly being recorded at different life cycle stages. So if you have a marketer who can work on automations, get your CRM running very properly, and when that happens, they're probably also running your analytics very well. Okay, they're setting up marketing automations. Everything that could be automated is being set up by them, or in other words, Zapier, Make.com, right?
Mhm.
These sort of expertise, a marketer with automation expertise could be very valuable. Another focus area I would identify is landing page or funnel expertise. Okay, if you're a marketer who can build their own landing pages, who can build a special page because you have a special offer to launch to the market, if they can do a special squeeze page or like a special advertisement focused page because you're launching a new ad campaign, right? Being able to work on the front end, okay, the marketer itself, if he is able to do it, that's a great value add, right? So within this space, I believe immediate growth lies. It needs to be on a channel, okay? Ultimately, it focuses on channel. It needs to be on a channel where you can expect outcome right away. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to simplify for the people that are not as familiar with marketing, when we say channel, we're talking about Facebook, Google, YouTube ads, that sort of thing, right? And just to kind of like if I look at it from a small business perspective, right? Like when we were small, we work with a lot of smaller businesses that have less than 50 employees, I would say, right? That's kind of the vast majority of our clients. We have some that have a few hundred, but the vast majority are 50 employees or less. In my opinion, the ones that have had the most success with hiring marketers, if you're at that stage, you need to have a reliable marketing channel that you can actively rely on, where it's like, if I spend $1,000 here, I know for a fact I'm going to be able to get $10,000 back in revenue or $5,000 back in revenue. And so that type of person, would be focused on running Facebook ads for you. They would be focused on running Google ads or YouTube ads. Now, one mistake I've often seen is that someone will come in and they will try to hire someone that does every single channel. And in my experience, that is not realistic because no matter how good and experienced someone is, usually they're really good at just one marketing channel. And then they might be kind of sufficient, but not as good at the other ones. So, like, for example, Piyash, your strong suit is Google. You're the best Google marketer I've ever met. We have another marketer that is called Steph. Her name's Steph, and she's phenomenal on Facebook. I don't think I've ever met someone as good as her at running Facebook ads. If I give her a budget, I know for a fact we're going to be profitable. If I give Piash a budget for Google, I know for a fact we're going to be profitable. And so those are the type of marketers that you want, where essentially they can help you drive growth on a specific marketing channel. So whatever you're selling, they can advertise it. Now, you will also need, for you to market, you also need a landing page, a website, and that sort of thing, right? Now, there are two ways to do it. You can either hire another person that can develop those pages, or you can try to find someone that can do a little bit more of a basic kind of setup just to kind of get things rolling. I would say, let me just mute everybody. Blanca, if you don't mind, just put everybody on mute as soon as they join. But anyway, so if you're limited on budget, I would suggest just hiring one person and then kind of working with what you have in terms of landing page and that sort of thing, whatever they could create. If you're not limited on budget and you have the ability to afford multiple hires, I would hire one person to design the landing page and the website and that sort of thing, and then another person to actually run the ads. And that's the way we did it. I remember when I first hired my first, real marketer, we were doing 50,000 a month in revenue. And I just needed, I had the landing page and all of that. I needed someone to drive the Facebook ads. In just 1 month, we went from 50,000 to 178,000 per month the next month. So like a 3x business growth. And I think not enough businesses focus on hiring those type of marketers, where that is one of the most important roles, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to add a couple more points, Abbas, what you have also identified, right? Top line numbers. Marketers need to come in and start contributing to top line numbers. So top line numbers, like obviously for digital companies and many companies, because they have digital fronts, should be top line traffic to then leads, and then like it eventually leads to conversions like sales or a meeting. It kind of applies to even like D2C companies. It's top line traffic that converting into ad sales, right? So
Yeah.
great points, to be honest. And another thing I would kind of stand up on is your focus on the skill set. Ultimately, like a marketer is not going to be an expert in many things, and although that could be desirable, right? And nowadays, like the other role I wanted to elaborate on is the generalist, the marketing generalist, right? Especially for a first hire, the marketing generalist is one of the key positions. You could consider it a marketing generalist. Nowadays they often like also use the term T-shaped marketer, where the marketer has like deep knowledge into one area and then working knowledge or proficiency across a number of other areas, right? So the best case scenario for the first marketing hire is you get a high quality T-shaped marketer. Yeah.
100%.
Uh,
Because
so
you probably
yeah.
need them to wear a few hats, because they might need to work on setting up your landing page because you don't have something properly set up, or you might. And if you do, that's great. Then you don't need that, right? You can just focus on someone who's really good at driving channel growth, right? But if not, they'll wear multiple hats. Maybe they need to help set up with your automations, your CRM, and that sort of thing.
Awesome. So next talking point for us is how to choose the right seniority level. Okay, so if you have decided this is the area I need to work on and this is the type of marketer I need, and now what sort of seniority level like kind of guarantees or assures the sort of performance or outcome you're looking for. So usually, again, for marketing roles, and again, if your team is very lean, if you're hiring one of your first one or two marketers, you're looking at hopefully you're looking at people who do not need to be trained, people who do not or wouldn't have like a ramp up period, okay? And usually starters, right? Fresh graduates, fresh out of school, these are not suitable like kind of profiles, right? You want people to come in coming with, let's say, multiple past jobs where they did something highly relevant, highly related. These are usually useful, right? And in terms of seniority, I would say a slightly mid-level, a slightly advanced marketer who have like a minimum of 2 years, 3 year experience. These are usually useful. And Abbas actually has a great point here. Okay, he suggests over hiring for key roles where outcome is very important. Abbas, yeah, please
Yeah,
elaborate on that.
absolutely. So it's interesting. I think another common mistake I see, this happens across all roles, but also especially in marketing, where people are for some reason against over hiring for positions. They try to hire someone who's below kind of the max. And I heavily disagree with that. I am always on the camp of over hire for the position and try to find the best possible, most qualified person that will accept the job, given the salary you're offering. And so, like, I remember when we were hiring our first marketer, we were doing $50,000 a month in revenue, and it wasn't even stable revenue, to be honest with you. So it wasn't like something I can rely on. But anyway, 50,000 a month. We had like 3 or 4 employees, 5 employees, something along these lines. And I hired the head of marketing from a company that was doing a million, million and a half in revenue, so significantly, extremely overqualified. Her salary was more than my profits at the time. And, when I hired her, as one of my thoughts is, can I afford to pay her? But the way I thought about it is, worst case scenario, if she comes in and I give her 3 months, if she's actually worth it, I will see enough growth in 3 months where then I don't have to worry about her salary. Her salary will be a small amount in comparison to how much revenue she generates. And if she's not the right fit, in 3 months I let her go. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to lose a few tens of thousands, but it's not going to kill the business. Whereas like it's kind of like an asymmetric bet. Best case scenario, they grow the business exponentially. Worst case scenario, you lose a couple 10,000, whatever, and then you're fine. And so I did that. We went from 50,000 to about 450,000, 500,000 a month in revenue with that person. She's amazing, by the way. She's still at the company. And then she got stuck because there was a technical problem that was happening. And then I hired Piash. Piash came from a company that was doing 36 million a year in revenue, right? Which is about, what is that, 2 to 3 million a month in revenue. We were at 500,000 revenue. Brought in Piash. Piash was able to fix the technical difficulties. And then we went from 500,000 in revenue to this month we're going to be at 1.625 or something like that in revenue, right? So like the business has more than 3x in the past 5, 6 months that you've been here, Piash, right? And again, Piash was significantly overqualified. If you don't mind commenting about this, Piash, your compensation was significantly higher than my budget when I was hiring you. But I was like, look, we'll see. 3 months, if he's good, he's going to drive revenue growth, and then we don't have to ever worry about his compensation again. And if he's not good, I'll lose some money, and then we kind of move on. But you were so good, obviously, that the business just exploded, and so that's no longer like a thought. But the point is, like, both of these marketing roles were over hires. They were kind of frisky if you think about it from a compensation standpoint, but the return on those hires has been tremendous. It's been absolutely unbelievable. And so that's why I think everybody should be over hiring, especially for the marketing position more than any other position, because you
Yeah.
don't want the results of companies that are also at your revenue level. You want the results of companies that are significantly ahead of you. And so basically by hiring those people, you're bringing the future forward to today.
Yes, absolutely, Abbas. And I think it makes a lot of sense for other companies too, because the marketing team ultimately does not scale like the rest of your business. Okay, if your business is growing very fast, you'd probably need for our business, we need more sales staffs as our leads grow, volume grow, and more recruiters, many more operational positions that like scale kind of correlated to the business versus the marketing team. Like a 7 8 person marketing team becomes almost full funnel, right? And a 10 11 12 person marketing team, which we have right now, there are multiple designers, front end developers, there's dedicated lifecycle marketers, dedicated senior content managers, a couple of dedicated paid ads managers. Obviously a luxury we could have at this stage, but given the situation, right, 10 to 12 people team, like it is reasonably lean. And it is also a stage where I can bring in more junior staffs, or I can bring in more staffs where they have very focused experience and skills, versus when we were smaller, Abbas was looking to overhire because he would like the staffs need to have skills in multiple areas.
100%.
So the paid ads manager, for instance, who were brought in like for the moment back at that time, they had to do spin up their own landing page. I do check some of those landing pages at time. They did their own graphics at times. They even sometimes did like they did a range of stuff, right? And that is kind of the tenacity you were looking for from your very early stage marketers. If you have no marketers, or if you have just one or two, right? This is kind of essence, I would say. Yeah.
And by the way, just so that people don't get scared by these numbers, like we have 11 marketers in the company right now or something like that of different degrees of, quality, right? And skill sets. But up until from 50,000 until about 500,000 a month in revenue, we only had one person. So like you don't need a whole lot of people. One good marketer can do a lot for your business. Once you get to those like larger scales where they're like 500 a month, a million a month, 2 million a month, whatever, you might need more, or you might, I wouldn't say we need, you just might want more people because you want to elevate the brand. However, even that is really not necessary. Like I think Piash and Steph could still generate very similar numbers to what we're generating because they're so skilled at what they need to do. It wouldn't look as good, it wouldn't look as polished, right? And so the point I'm trying to make is that you don't need to think about paying the salaries of 11 marketers. You can just pay for one really good one, and that can drive a lot of growth to the point where by the point you want to hire more people, the salaries are no longer a thought in your head, essentially, of adding additional staff.
Absolutely. Point we want to discuss is how to evaluate marketers' profiles or CVs, okay, and how to kind of bring in high quality talent for an interview session or for your consideration. The idea is if you have access to a lot of very high quality talent, you are very likely to ultimately make a decision that works out over the short and long term, right? So we'll talk about like some specific details we consider when we are making our marketing hires. All right. So I'll talk about analyzing a resume first. What sort of roles I'm looking for in their past experiences. Again, for the sake of this conversation, if someone does not have past experience, based on the policies in this discussion, they are not being considered. Okay. Now, if they do have past experience, I think the most useful ones are when they have very related or relevant experience doing the activities that they have been doing. It's a plus if they had been doing it for a closely related business. Okay. And in such a cases, you should definitely use your experience or knowledge to justify if that company had been growing during this phase. If they are not growing, this is probably not a good hire. All right. So that's one. Otherwise, people could definitely be working at a number of like different companies, and good hires do not necessarily come from your specific industry or the type of company you represent. That's not necessarily true, actually. Okay. But even in such cases, the sort of experiences that you're looking for, I would start with what not to look for. Okay. One would be an agency experience. You do not want to work with marketers who had been working with agencies. Agencies have very large teams, wide teams, people who would have very focused, specific jobs, something that a small marketing team cannot afford. And this person wouldn't be used to working across many different things or wearing multiple hats, right? So agency is of no use, to be honest, for the sort of needs of a small marketing team. Okay, what's useful? Useful is early stage experience at D2C companies, B2B SaaS companies, could be early stage experiences in the companies in your industry or niche too. But if I generalize a bit, okay, B2B and D2C experience, early stage experience could be highly valuable. And you want to look at the exact time span and kind of try to predict what happened for the company during that time span too. All right. It is useful to also ask during the interview, right? And 0 to 1 experience is something that is of like kind of plus again. Okay. Someone coming in who makes this statement like I joined at 0 and now they have like $1 million in revenue, $50,000 in revenue, 500K, whatever these numbers are, these are good. Okay. For someone to take from something from 0 to like one of those levels, they had to solve a lot of things. They had to solve 10 things to get those to those stage. And now the stage is someone else coming in with less experience could be able to like take advantage of it, right? So that 0 to sort of experience, when they have that, especially for early stage G2 companies, early stage B2B companies, right? Reputed high quality companies, that is of value
Makes a
to
lot of
me.
sense. So essentially, you want someone that worked at small companies because they were used to operating in a way where they don't have a big team to rely on, and they have to kind of
Yes.
figure things out on their own. Whereas with an agency, they have someone to do the landing page, someone for the graphics, someone for the copy, someone for every little piece that they're very well trained at a very specific thing. But if you're a
Yeah.
small business owner, for example, let's say under 50 employees, under whatever, you probably don't have those type of members on your team yet, and so you want someone that's kind of a generalist, right? And that's why
Yeah.
Piash is recommending, someone that has worked at a 0 to 1 million revenue companies.
Yes, and I would kind of relate to the example you shared earlier. When you brought in your head of marketer at a very early stage, right? The head of marketer came in and she was the only marketer. She needed some better graphics for her ads. Maybe she needed them, right? And there was no one to do them. And at such stages, she either does them herself, which is not a big deal. Like if she cannot do it, she should have the kind of competence to go to a quick plug-in solution to it. Okay,
Yeah.
you want someone smart enough to either find in solutions very fast, or someone smart enough to kind of do some of the things herself. Another thing a paid ads manager would often need is high quality support with landing pages. The paid ad manager could just say, like, I'm not a developer myself. I do not create my own landing pages. That is reasonably fine, especially at an agency. Okay, the landing page is always being developed by a separate person, separate team. Okay, versus you do not have the, or we do not have the luxury to employ that sort of budget on like additional heads, right? So a wider experience, the T shape, right, that becomes highly valuable. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, Piyash, when you're meeting people, and they're saying, "Hey, I used to work at XYZ company," I'm curious about how do you assess whether they actually have experience or they were just a part of the company but weren't really doing a whole lot. I'm kind of curious
Yeah.
about
So this one is again a great point, Abbas. So when we do the review the resume, all right, we were talking about the type of experience they had or the type of work they did. Another thing that I like reviewing is the company's website. Okay. I would another I think it's slightly unique to me. I don't like to hire from marketing my at least my marketing staff from companies who do not have an outright great marketing game on their website, and also they're supporting, I would say, social media channels, very visible, right? YouTube ads, things like that, very visible. So if you're really serious about a marketing hire, you would want to look at the company's marketing, right? And be able to relate which ones did they have a kind of coverage on, especially with very lean teams. Okay, they would probably be able to influence a lot of things. And for a marketer, the great point, it's always true. If it shows, it's there, right? Like if they have good marketing, that company has good marketing, it will be visible and you can observe it. So that's a good test. You probably want to do it with all two or three companies which the marketer have mentioned in their profile. Now, if you cannot find those companies, if those companies do not look prominent enough, if their landing page looks like there's a lot to there's a lot lacking, these are all good signs for you to stay away the marketing hire too. Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. Very good point. Another thing that I like to do is when I meet, let's say marketers or really any position, if it's especially higher level positions, is I try to see if I could learn something from them while we're hosting the interview. So like I remember when I met Steph, our first marketer, that got us from 50 to 500 a month. I knew Facebook ads well enough because I used to run Facebook ads myself, but I learned so much we had two conversations, and on every single one of these conversations, I wanted to make sure I don't lose any of the things that she was saying. So I was writing down notes just in case she doesn't decide to work with me. I wanted to implement the things that she was saying. And so like I just learned so much because I could tell she was so knowledgeable about Facebook ads. When I met Piash, we were talking about a number of things. One of the most was Google, and it's the same thing. It's like in my head, I'm like, I want to retain as much knowledge as possible that he's sharing with me because if we don't end up working together, I want to make sure I take these notes to the next person I hire because obviously he's very highly qualified. So I would say that's a good test of a marketer. Whereas if they don't seem impressive, they can't go into detail, they can't be nerdy enough about little things that nobody else cares about, they're probably not very good at marketing. If you're hiring someone to not be just a generalist, but like to actually drive revenue from a specific channel, like you're hiring someone to do Facebook ads or Google ads, right? If you're hiring someone who's maybe going to be a team member and a kind of like a general person, maybe that doesn't apply as much because they usually will stick to lower level tasks. But like if you're hiring someone who's a specialist in Google, specialist in Facebook, specialist in whatever channel, they should know enough to amaze you essentially and teach you new things on that interview.
Yeah, absolutely, Abbas. So this is another great thing. Like I'm kind of positively looking at when we talk about the generalist, the T-shaped marketer. I'm very positive about the additional things they bring in. And nowadays, with all the advancements in AI and web page technologies and online technologies, okay, we do see a lot of like varieties being brought in. Okay, and as the marketer, additional skill is highly valuable to us. Which additional channel that the marketer promises would be relevant to us? Like we do have some things in mind. Like we definitely want to kind of like bolster or empower our existing channels. We want our ads to bring in more traffic, our landing pages to convert better, etc., etc. But when a marketer comes in and says, "I have advanced skills with CDANs, the new LLM like bodies, and do better processing. I can do videos through AI, things like that." These all become valuable to us. And also as a marketer, it is like we as a company, we manage a kind of wish list, okay, of where or what we want to grow. Right. For example, one of our key goals for this term is we want to see our partnership team grow. Okay, not team, partnership program grow. We see our service being relevant to many companies in the space who also have access to groups or who also have like follow-on clients who would find our service useful, and there could be a natural connection there, right? So if partnership is one of the channels that we're trying to grow, we either bring in people who are like focused on it, which is the kind of direction we took. But if we don't have the budget, other generalists who come in, if someone has some success there, if they have done something like this, we would take it as an advantage and kind of have it as one of his activities too. Okay.
100%.
Another kind of I would say principle that is often very useful for marketing roles is looking at the 80/20 principle. Okay, you are going to get marketers who definitely invest 80% of their time on key outcomes you set, right? The other 20% you should like allocate, do some allocation for experimentations, for improvements, for process growth and things like that. Yeah.
Makes sense. So a little bit on that point as well. It's interesting if you think about like hiring someone, there's two ways they can drive value to the business. One way they drive value to the business is obviously in increasing revenue, increasing cash flow profits to the business right now. Another way is by increasing the value of the business when you unlock a specific channel. So, like for example, you think about remote leverage from zero to 500,000 a month. Our primary method of marketing was Facebook ads, right? And so we were making money from Facebook ads. I can keep scaling Facebook ads forever, whatever. The problem with that is if I was to think about the business from a business buyer perspective, as if I was buying the business, what would I look for in a business that I'm buying? And if the entire marketing was happening just through, say, Facebook, I wouldn't value it as much as a business that could do Facebook and also could do Google and cold calling and another channel because then that business is more stable. If something happens to Facebook, not a problem. They have two, three other marketing channels. Now, why is that important that you think that way? Because even if you're not planning on selling the business, I have no plans of selling remote leverage at all. But the point is, when you think that way, you can build a more stable business. And so when you hire someone to bring into the company, I see people assign too many things to a marketer where they never get to a point where they fully unlock a channel because that person is so distracted with like 100 things that they need to do for the business and the business owner that they don't really go all in on one thing. Like if I think about it with our first marketer, all I cared about was unlocking the Facebook marketing channel. If I could unlock Facebook and count on it as a reliable channel to grow the business, then I would consider her job accomplished. That will immediately increase the value of the business significantly. And so it's the same thing with Piash joining in. My main thing for him is like number one objective is to unlock Google Ads. Because if I can prove that Google Ads could work for our business in this industry as well, obviously it's been proven by others, but if for our business, that will immediately significantly increase the value of the business, regardless of whether I want to sell it or not. It just increases the value of the business and adds more stability. And so once that's accomplished, we can do other things, but you don't want to add someone in and have them do 100 things and not really go all in on the one most important thing first and get that accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add to these views about channels, Abbas, a little bit. So when a small business gets set up, when the founder is kind of setting the business up, often they are working on a channel themselves, or they could have one channel sorted out, and at that point, that sustenance, that's like what gets the business going from there. Unlocking the second and third channel kind of gets you into a growth phase. Okay, it kind of applies across industries. If you have a good second and third channel going on, you are growing faster than your peers. Okay, so that is why unlocking channels is exclusively important. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and if you think about the value that that brings to the business relative to how much you pay in salary and compensation, it's like you will make your money back very, very easily, assuming you hire the right person for the role. If you don't hire the right person and you hire some mediocre person because you want to save on salary, you want to save on whatever compensation, you're not going to unlock the benefits, in my opinion. So, like for marketing roles specifically, I tend to not care about the budget as much because I just want to hire the best people I can possibly find for these roles. Michael is asking, what is the salary for someone to unlock a new channel? Very good question. We're definitely going to go over compensation as well. Do you want to go over that right now, Piyash?
Um,
Or later?
so compensation. So the next phase could be about it. Okay, we were
Sure.
going to talk about locations as to where good marketing hires or talents are located, and we'll also cover compensations
100%.
for different like geographies that we mentioned. Okay, so where do you find high quality marketing hires? All right. USA is definitely one of the best locations in-house, like US has one of the best education system. They have most competent employees. They have the most advanced marketing technologies going on, right? So US definitely represents one of the best locations you could get marketing hires from. Okay, but we do a lot of offshore recruitment, and it's one of our advantages. One of the kind of key models for this is people are trying to, or we believe that you could potentially receive a dividend by moving offshore. You could get talents of a certain level at lower than. And from that perspective, we think some of the best marketing talents come from Latin America's region and East Europe, more specifically East Europe. These are two specific regions we focus on when we are trying to hire for our clients and also for our in-house team. Okay.
Yeah.
For these two regions, we feel like they're already affordable. We'll talk about rates, like already affordable at really great rates. But if you want to push it a little bit, in that case, I would say South Asia and Philippines are also very, very good locations, right?
100%. Just
In terms,
to add on to
sorry.
that, by the way, my first marketer was actually from the Philippines. That's the person that took us from 50 to half a million a month. She's from the Philippines. Right now, she's managing for us a budget of about, I don't know, 300 something, 50,000, 400,000 on Facebook ads. Like she spends a lot of money per month on Facebook ads. And so you can get really good quality from the Philippines. The another place is Latin America, as Piash mentioned, also phenomenal talent. They work with the same time zone as the US, same culture. So I think these are very two strong locations. Europe is also very good. The US is great, but the cost to results ratio you're going to get, in my opinion, is not quite there. Like I believe that the person who is in the Philippines that's running our ads is far better than anyone I could have found in the US. Far better, far better. She's very
Yeah,
attentive to detail. She takes her job very seriously. And she's, I would say, given her skill set, she would be paid a lot more in the US than what she's getting paid. And I mean, she gets paid really well, by the way, just to be clear. But like, she would get paid even more in the US.
yeah,
I would say, especially if you have under, say, 50, 100 employees, like now we have about 145 people working at Remote Leverage, and I just hired my first US employee. I really don't think like US employees are necessary, to be honest with
yeah.
you.
So in such a case, right, the early stage tires, right? Freshers out of school, people with limited skills, right? Or a more basic marketer would already be in the range, which might be a bit prohibitive for very small companies. We have a lot of clients who are home service operators, right? We have a lot of clients who are operating like a franchisee with a very lean and small team, and they cannot really afford to hire a paid ads guy at $8,000, $10,000 monthly salary, right?
Exactly.
If like US from the marketing perspective could be a bit prohibitive, especially when your budget is a bit constrained, okay? For larger teams, for senior roles, for example, some of our most senior roles, they are nowadays being hired from the US. Ultimately, you go where your needs take you, okay?
Yeah.
And For marketing, we think getting the sort of marketer who unlocks a channel, who gets growth started for you, it is more than easy for someone like us, for yourself to kind of go to an offshore place, offshore location, and find high quality competent candidates yourselves, right? So that is
And to be
one way.
more specific on price, I would say it really depends on the region. Like the Philippines is going to be less expensive than Latin America, for example, right?
Yeah,
And there are pros and cons to both regions. And same thing, Europe and Latin America are almost the same in terms of pricing, I've come to find out. I would say if you want someone that's going to run a marketing channel for you, say Facebook, Google, LinkedIn ads, whatever, TikTok ads, doesn't really matter. You probably don't want to cheap out on that because if they're going to handle ad spend, someone who can do 10% better. Let's say you spend 10,000 a month, for example. Someone who can do 10% better will save you $1,000, for example. And then as your ad budget increases, they're going to save you significantly more money. So like I always try to hire the most expensive, best people I can find for
yeah,
these positions. I would say you're probably looking at about 2,500 to 3,000, $4,000, somewhere in there. I would say 3 to 4,000 is kind of a good number to estimate for these regions for someone to be able to come in and build a marketing channel for you. Now, you also personally, what I like to do, that's what I would say is the base salary, 3 to 4,000 a month. I would also highly suggest setting up some sort of revenue or bonus structure so that way they're incentivized to continue to grow your revenue. You don't want them to just run the ads and say, whatever, I'm getting paid my salary, doesn't matter. You want some sort of bonus compensation. I like to compensate based on revenue because then they're very focused on revenue growth. I've also seen some people focus on things like profit growth. I don't like profit growth because then they might be more careful with spend because they want to keep the profits high. But as an early stage, let's say business, you really shouldn't care much about profits. I mean, you don't want to lose money, but like you should be obsessed with growing revenue. And so that's why you want to compensate them based on revenue growth, right? So I'd say that. Now, if you don't want to hire someone to start a marketing channel, you just want someone to maybe help out with general marketing things. Usually it's a little more cheap. It's like 2,000 to 2,500 per month. So it's less expensive, but if you're hiring to start a marketing channel from scratch and add a lot of value to the business, if they do it properly, of course, I would say 3 to 4,000 per month is a reasonable number for these two regions. or three?
Yeah.
Okay.
At that sort of range, you have unlocked like mid-level or senior marketers, and then there's not a lot of difference between East Europe or like Latin America too. It's a good salary in both of those locations. It's a slightly like mid-level salary, right? And for other positions too, like often we have found, for example, for junior roles, very junior roles like Latin America and Philippines doesn't really differ a lot, right? Latin America does like present a very strong gain per on a per dollar basis when it comes to skills. Okay, so overall, Latin America is great. East Europe would generally be great. It is very good for marketing overall. Okay, and in terms of salary ranges, $3,000 to $4,000 gets you very competent marketers, especially when you have to rely on one marketer to do it all. Okay, versus when you have a slightly bigger marketing team and you are ready to bring in people with expertise in specific area, right? For example, you want someone to come in and only handle email marketing or lifecycle marketing. At those positions, you can budget a lot lower. Okay, 2000 that could get the job done in a market like Latin America. 1500 would be the absolute minimum across markets. Okay, below $1,500, you cannot really find a good marketer nowadays because the market is more fluid. Good marketers would generally easily be at a 1500 plus tier. So yeah, that is kind of the insight about salaries. Any questions you could ask them, we'd take them on. And
Absolutely.
Abbas, yeah.
Another final point I would say is, how do you know whether you need a marketer or not for your business? I would say one question you want to ask yourself is, if you had an unlimited amount of leads, could you grow the business? And if the answer is yes to that, then you need to hire a marketer. Just to give you guys a little personal story, I had a friend of mine, we've been friends for like 10 years. He came over the other day to visit, and I was like, "What are you working on to grow your business? Tell me." And my business is now much bigger than his, but the point is, he was telling me, he's like, "Well, I'm working on improving my sales presentation. I'm working on my operation, whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, let's talk about your sales presentation. What's your current close rate?" And he's like, 70%. 70% is unbelievably high. That's some of the best I've ever heard in any company. And I'm like, okay, well, how many leads are you getting? And the number of leads he was getting is minuscule. So he was working on operations. He was working on improving the sales presentation, where in reality, if he was to just improve marketing and get significantly more leads, him going from 70 to 80% really doesn't matter in terms of how much business he's going to get. But him going from, say, call it 100 leads to 200 leads would immediately double his income immediately. And so it's always interesting to me, like how in a lot of cases, the right answer is to just toss more leads at the problem. And a lot of times, you once you fix that, every other problem either goes away or it becomes very easy to fix. And so for a lot of businesses that we deal with, we talk to, the main bottleneck, they hire for a bunch of roles, but I always see that in a lot of cases, the main bottleneck is they just don't have as many leads coming in. And if they were to hire more marketers, which really interesting. I don't think enough people hire marketers. If they were to hire more marketers, a lot of businesses would be significantly more successful than they are, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think a core reason as to why they don't do it well is they might be misaligned. Okay, I'll mention a couple of positions which are very popular. All right, but they do not really bring immediate impact. And if you were expecting them, you'd probably be a little bit frustrated. For example, social media manager, right, is a very popular position. People hire this often like as the first marketer, right? And if you think about it, ultimately it's about misalignment. The top of line numbers you want like website traffic or leads, right, or bookings, versus if you bring in a social media marketer, be like acquire more followers, acquire more like engaging posts, get engagements out of it, right? So again, a very popular position, but I do not think social media from that perspective actually gets top line high quality like leads or business out of it. Okay, another very popular area would be content and SEO, for instance. Okay, especially for small business owners, it is very attractive because it promises long long-term like leads or traffic for almost free because they get from search engines, from the chat engine, like from ChatGPT and other LLM engines, right? And they would be inclined to invest into, let's say, a content manager, get them to produce content, and then try to like kind of achieve good search rankings over a timeline. So again, something like that, that is like very time consuming. It is easy to make mistakes, and you could be very misaligned over like 6 months. The worst thing that could happen is you actually rank after 6 months for topics that do not really bring in money, right? So from the beginning, from the start, being true to the outcomes expected, the channels that should be addressed, these are like essential. Okay, if you can get those aligned, you will be in good shape. Another perspective that Abbas mentioned in one of his earlier comments, right? He was talking about aligning compensation. Okay, aligning compensation for which roles? Aligning compensations which for the roles that are directly attributable to revenue, and these roles would also know it. Okay, or in other words, paid ads is one of the only guys in your company who you can talk about revenue or have asks like this. I want the revenue to raise by 20% this month. This is one of the very unique roles in the company. And when you can talk about bottom line numbers like that with someone, that is an ideal marketing hire. Okay, or in other words, it applies to interviews for your target roles, target searches, everything. Okay, you want revenue to increase and then address the channels, the skills, etc., that gets those things. Okay, someone who can drive revenue and he is aware of it, and very likely in his portfolio he is making promises like that. Okay, I helped company X grow from $0 to 100 millions, 50 million, 10 million, like numbers like that. Doesn't have to be high, but has to exhibit growth. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I completely agree. As a business owner, you have a bunch of bills to pay. I look at my American Express statement every day and I see thousands of dollars being spent every single day. And so I need revenue. I need money coming in so I can pay for all the employees we have, all the ads we have, all the different, softwares that we use. And so if someone was to come in when we are a small business, like let's say I would still consider 100 45 is what we're at, I think, right now. I would still consider that small. But let's say when we were significantly smaller, when we were only doing 50,000 a month, if someone was to come in and say, hey, I want to work on your social media and you can expect to see results from me in 6 to 12 months, which by the way, I interviewed marketers and that was their value proposition is I'll work on your SEO, expect 12 months before you see results. And it's like, I don't have the funds to pay you and pay for the SEO and pay for the marketing for 12 months before I see money coming in. I can't afford it, right? Now, if someone was to come in and say, hey, you give me a budget of 5,000 and I'll give you 20,000, 25, $30,000 back next month in return from these ads, I'd be like, sure, do it. I can afford that. I can spend the money now, I can get it back and multiple of it back next month. That sounds great. Once you get to a much larger stage where now you're not really in need of money as much anymore, like you're not cash constrained, like for us right now, then it's like, okay, we're gonna spend more on ads, but we have so much more cash flow. Let's also spend money on SEO. Let's also spend money on social media. Let's spend money on dumb things that I would have not really spent money on, say, 1.5 years ago, because now I can afford it and I don't have to worry about the cost of it. But until you get to that stage, I really wouldn't bother hiring for SEO, social media, all that sort of crap. Hire people that can drive revenue as soon as possible because you got to pay your bills.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we have got a couple of questions. One is how to build trust when hiring the first marketing person in my business. So I believe, Jack, you meant like trust on your behalf to make or attract high quality talent. This is a challenging question. I think one thing that has a lot of impact on a potential hires mind. Okay, irrespective of the department, like usually if we have nice websites, if we are a little bit known, a little bit reputed, if there are some footprints across internet, these are usually helpful. Okay, definitely invest into the footprint, and also maybe your website. Like if the marketer do not find your website interesting enough, okay, likely your leads or prospective clients are also having issues there. And Michael asked the next question. For example, revenue 20% plus, and what is a good incentive that will make them hit it? I'm sure Abbas has some points too,
Yeah.
but I would go first, Abbas. So
Yeah.
um, if for a paid ads guy, revenue is usually directly attributed by integrations. Unless your business is a SaaS consultation sort of business with very long life cycle. If it's not like in that range, otherwise revenue should be attributed directly to ads. It is necessary for the ads to go well, right? And as a result, because the paid ads guy is someone who works against that attribution, revenue would be a measure. You are tracking revenue, and for revenue you could do two sorts of incentives. One could be based on top lines. I want leads to increase, that sort of things, especially again when you are a SaaS or consultation business with leads of high quality value. For a D2C commerce sort of business, you want to attribute it directly to revenue, to bottom line. Okay. But that for a paid ads guy. For other marketing roles, you either resort to bottom line or top line. Okay. Top line for many marketing roles where they can influence things like leads, and you want to attribute like a high quality event, something like leads, not really traffic. Okay. Either leads or revenue. Yeah, Abbas, go on.
I'll give you my perspective. It's a little different than yours, Piyash. So first, how to build trust when hiring the first marketing person in my business. So Jackie, I'll tell you that, in my opinion, I would trust our hiring management team to help you choose the right person for these type of roles because they handle a lot of hiring every day for many different companies. So if you book a call with us, if you go to remoteleverage.com, you can book a call with a rep. They'll walk you through our process. They will give you a hiring manager to work with. The hiring manager will listen to exactly what you're looking for, identify the bottleneck in your business, and then they will go interview people on your behalf, and they will bring you the top two people that maybe you should potentially hire one of them or two or whatever, right? So our hiring management team can help you with that. You know, you don't need to be an expert on interviews and choosing the right person if you work with us because we will do that for you, right? As long as you listen to our feedback. Sometimes people don't, and then they come back later and we have to replace it for them, right? Anyway, so moving on to Michael, revenue 20%. What is a good incentive? So, uh, Michael, from my perspective, I generally don't like to reward people based on leads or traffic or signups because let Michael, let's say we're working together and I am your marketer, you're my boss, and you're like, hey boss, I want you to double my leads. What I'm gonna if that's the only metric you give me, I will go and I will get you cheap leads because you didn't tell me you want me to double your revenue, you said double the leads. So I'm gonna get you the cheapest possible leads to double the leads. If you say double my traffic, I'll get you a bunch of people from Africa to hit our website, and that will drive traffic significantly because that traffic is cheap, right? So you have to be very specific with what it is that you actually care about. So that way their goals and your goals are correctly aligned to each other. And so for me as a business owner, I don't care about leads. I don't care about appointments. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is revenue. I want money hitting the bank. And so I will incentivize every role that I hire for, um, that is front facing, that is connected to revenue. I will incentivize them with revenue based incentives where it's like, hey, if we get to 1 million a month in revenue, you get X percent. We get to 1.5 million, you get X percent, right? And then you also want to help them build out like where you want the business to go. And then they can also imagine how much their compensation is going to be. So
Absolutely.
like, for
Yeah.
example, one of our goals is to get to 5 million a month in revenue by next year. And so if people know, hey, I'm going to get X amount percent of that revenue, then they can align, okay, when the business gets to 5 million a month in revenue, my life is going to look like this because that's how much money I'm going to make. And so then their personal goals are in line with the business goals. And that's very important because you want everybody to be pushing in the right direction. Um, I wouldn't do traffic, I wouldn't do leads, I wouldn't do profits because at the end of the day, they really don't control profits. You control profits, you can decide what to spend on. If I, like right now, I'm spending a lot of money for to hire for roles that will bring us very far future type of growth, and that's going to completely hurt our profit margin, but that's okay with me because I'm investing in the future. That's not Piyash's fault or Seth's fault, and it's like they're doing their job perfectly well. They're driving a lot of revenue. I'm spending the revenue on things that I care about for us a few years down the line, right? And so there's no point in hurting them based on profits going down because I'm spending it the way I want. So you want to focus on top line revenue. At least that's my perspective on how I would incentivize people.
Absolutely. And another point to add here, Abbas, I think kind of goes aligned in line with your comments. Well, like you shouldn't feel sorry about being demanding. Okay. You want to hire highly competent people,
Now I
and
don't feel
then
bad, Fiash.
yes, yes. And you want to be very demanding. Okay. You should be able, again, you could be like, I want 20% plus revenue. You can be that demanding if you have hired someone competent enough. That is the best case scenario. You have a bunch of talents where you can make demands like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say we're kind of, to be honest with you, like I was talking to Piash about this today, we're kind of a high stress higher stress work environment, but everybody's happy here because they see the growth. But like we're high stress in the sense that we have very lofty goals, and it's like if you are the reason for that for us not growing, I'm very demanding. I try to figure out what the hell is going on. Why are we not meeting expectations in this area? And then you fix your bottleneck, I move on to the next department that's bottleneck in the growth, right? But that's because like I have very high quality people here. And so I know that as long as I push them towards us achieving the goals that we want to achieve, they'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah.
And if they're not able to figure it out, then they're not the right fit. Maybe you don't hire the right person. But like if you hire the
And
right
this
person,
is
you
a
can hit those goals.
And this is a great litmus test. Okay. Have you hired a marketer or do you have a marketing team where you can be as demanding as that? Okay. Can we do 20% plus this season, this month, this December? Okay. If you can make demands like that, I think as a CEO, you have achieved that level where you have departments working by themselves on company goals, right? And you are not really overworking yourself into looking into all sorts of things. Yeah.
100%. Now, just real quick, if for those that haven't hired with us before, if you have not hired with us, what we do is we help businesses hire people from Latin America, the Philippines, Europe, for many different roles. And if you're thinking about hiring potentially a marketer in this case, or any position, sales, admin, executive assistants, recruiters, whatever you can think about, developers, we can help you with these positions. Go to remoteleverage.com. I'll put the link in the chat, remoteleverage.com. Thank you, Blanca. If you go there, you can book a call for free with one of our reps. They can walk you through how we do business. Essentially, the way we work is we connect you with talent directly. So they don't work with us and then we give them to you and then we charge a monthly fee. We don't like to do that. We're basically a headhunting service. So you tell us what you want, we find you the person, you pay us one time for that role, and that's it. And then you work with whoever you hire directly. So it's a lot cheaper for you and you don't have to deal with a third party, kind of charging you a fee every single month. I don't like that. So anyway, so if you're interested in that, if you want to hire for any position in the company, go to remoteleverage.com, book a call, and we'll be able to help you with that. Any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions they want to ask us? I hope this was helpful. I think, marketing is one of the most important things we could talk about. I don't think it draws as much attention or traffic because people don't think it's the problem that they have in their business, but in many cases it is. It is recorded, Michelle. We'll definitely be posting it on YouTube. And Blanca, I think you're going to be sending this out to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Perfect.
I'll be sending that and uploading that to YouTube.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for attending. Seems like there are no more questions. If you have a question, feel free to email us. Where Piyash also sees these emails that you guys send out. Happy to answer any questions. But thank you so much for attending, and we will see you all on the next one we host. Take care.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye bye.